Minister Jónasson, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, I am honored to address you on this important meeting in Reykjavík and sincerely welcome you all to the Reykjavík Congress on Human Rights 2013. While discussing the vitally important issues of the Congress over the course of the next few days, our hearts and eyes are in Syria and Sudan, as well as other areas of crisis where life is at risk. We firstly would like to thank Minister Ögmundur Jónasson, as well as the entire Ministry of the Interior of Iceland and the Ada Center of Excellence at the University of Iceland for enabling this extraordinary gathering. Their decision to enable and to host this Congress sends an important message to the international community and will serve as an example for more meetings like this in the years to come. I would like to thank Mr. Janus Janše for his leadership, his dedication, and his sustained support of the ICD initiative on the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the last years, for his courageous efforts to prevent current and future mass atrocities. I would like to thank President Ólaf Ragnar Grímsson, President of Iceland, President Emil Constantinescu, President of the ICD Academy for Cultural Diplomacy, former President of Romania, Judge Vesna Medencina, President of the Supreme Court of Montenegro, Minister Dr. Urmas Paet, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, the Honorable Franco Frattini, former Foreign Minister of Italy, Lord Prescott, former Deputy Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the Honorary Dr. Kinga Götz, Member of the European Parliament and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary, the Honorable Dr. Arato Kozaku Markoulis, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus, and all of the other dear important speakers and participants of this Congress for your decision to participate and to contribute to this conference. I would like to thank the entire team of the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy here with me in Reykjavík, as well as back home in our headquarters in Berlin. For the last 5 years, since the 20th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall in 2009, the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy has been engaged in promoting the prevention of genocide and mass atrocities. Our activities range from research to conferences and focus primarily on creating alliances between different players in order to increase the cooperation and collaboration. At the same time, we try to highlight and improve the level of understanding and information about the mass atrocities that are taking place and the challenges in preventing them. The important duty of the prevention of genocide and mass atrocities is crucially dependent on many political, economic, and social factors, as well as different players coming from all sectors of society, and therefore it is very sensitive and complicated. The task creates a greater need for the more organized and coordinated cooperation and collaboration by all players. The ICD recognized this need and uses the application of cultural diplomacy practices in order to foster and to enable greater cooperation. We are delighted and motivated by receiving the support from the public and private sectors, as well as civil society, to our efforts, and we will continue to do so with the hope that one day, hopefully in our lifetimes, we will be able to live in a world based on the legal foundations where human rights and dignity are both fully respected and protected. Last December of 2012, the ICD hosted a meeting in Berlin with other NGOs and human rights activists from around the world. Within the framework of this meeting, we expressed our desire to see a greater international cooperation between NGOs, governments, and other players in the field of human rights. In this meeting, we decided together to hold a major civil society symposium for human rights between May 30th and June 2nd, 2013 in Berlin, where NGOs and civil society activists from all 5 continents will come to a symposium dedicated to the issues of genocide and mass atrocities in order to lay the sustainable foundations for a greater global alliance in the field of human rights. The ICD created a working alliance group with several leading organizations in order to host the symposium, and we have asked these organizations to send their messages to you here today so that it will be included in this Congress. I am now therefore going to read brief messages from our partners, Dr. Gregory Stanton from Genocide Watch, Rebecca Tinsley from Waging Peace, and Tatar Georgi, the director of the Budapest Center for International Prevention of Genocide and Mass Atrocities. So allow me to briefly read these statements. First of all, from Dr. Gregory Stanton from Genocide Watch. Genocide Watch founded the International Alliance to End Genocide in 1999 at the Hague Appeal for Peace. Our alliance has now over 50 member organizations in 11 countries. Included among them are the International Crisis Group the Minority Rights Group, Survival International, the Aegis Trust, Waging Peace, and other highly respected anti-genocide and conflict prevention organizations. We are delighted that the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy has joined the Alliance with the objective of expanding the anti-genocide and anti-atrocity movements among organizations in Europe. We look forward to discussing the future of the International Alliance from May 30th until June 1st in Berlin at the ICD. Genocide Watch will co-sponsor this meeting. It is vital that the European organizations take an active role in the anti-genocide movement, as European countries have taken an increasingly active role in combating atrocities by governments and terrorist organizations in places like Libya and Mali. European countries are well suited to oppose atrocities in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia because of their long historical involvement in these regions. Europeans have patience with long-term conflict resolution that is not always apparent in American responses. Europe's extraordinary progress since World War II in overcoming historic conflicts has given European countries a realization that education and development are better preventions of atrocities than war. The International Alliance to End Genocide has most recently been an active contributor to the formulation of an international convention for crimes against humanity, led by Professor Cherif Bassioni, one of the originators of the International Criminal Court, and Professor Leila Sadat. I explain why the world needs such a convention in an article that will be distributed at this meeting, along with copies of the draft convention. We hope that your governments will support this new convention for crimes against humanity. I would now like to read the brief statement from Rebecca Tinsley from Waging Peace. I apologize that no one from Waging Peace is with you today, but we have several events in London this week marking the 10th anniversary of the start of the Darfur conflict. I hope you will keep the people of Sudan in mind, because their continuing suffering reminds us why this meeting in Reykjavík is important. It is a time to reevaluate intervention in the post-Libya environment. Many nations believe that the United Nations Security Council resolution of 1973 was a Trojan horse. They fear it provided a pretext for postmodern imperialism. Those who are suspicious point to the inconsistent track record of countries most keen on intervention, starting in the modern era with the overthrow of Mossadegh in Iran in 1953. At stake is the future of the UN Security Council. Before the intervention in Libya, there was frustration that many resolutions on conflicts like Darfur were not enforced due to the lack of a collective will. Post-Benghazi, it is not even possible to pass meaningful resolutions, let alone to enforce them. I hope this conference will consider two ideas. The first means reframing international law to emphasize stopping mass atrocities rather than genocide. Too often, instead of taking prompt action, we are sidelined by semantic arguments about definitions of genocide and proving intent. If that means drafting a new convention on the prevention of mass atrocities or crimes against humanity, as suggested by the International Alliance to End Genocide, then so be it. It also requires an emphasis on robust early warning systems, that accurate measurement of civilian casualties, and a mechanism that triggers a mandated response at the highest levels. The second idea directly concerns those at the Reykjavík conference, because whether you know it or not, you are an ad hoc coalition of the willing. Instead of optimistically hoping the International Criminal Court will one day apprehend those indicts, we should consider supporting brave local civil society groups who try to prosecute mass atrocities through civil lawsuits. This places an onus on the local legal system to provide its independence. While this won't always happen, it is surprising how often courts in places like Zimbabwe do demonstrate their integrity. Civil society groups would need legal advice and financial support, and if necessary, physical protection. This approach is already being used to great effect by groups like Peace Brigades International. To provide the support, we need an international coalition of the willing. We know that wealthy philanthropists, foundations, governments, and NGOs come together to tackle the world's deadliest diseases and to provide aid after disasters. But think how many lives, how much money would be saved by preventing these mass atrocities in the first place, or stopping them in a timely way by empowering local civil society. Waging Peace is proud to be working with the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, and we hope to meet you in Berlin. Together we must chart a way forward, bearing in mind that for every depraved and selfish act during a conflict, there is a corresponding act of decency, courage, and humanity. Our mission is to make it possible for the best intentions to triumph. Final statement I'd like to share with you is from Tatar Georgi from the Budapest Center for the International Prevention for Genocide and Mass Atrocities. The Budapest Center for International Prevention of Genocide and Mass Atrocities is an international non-governmental organization committed to preventing the crime of crimes and other mass atrocities. The Budapest Center is an ICD partner and co-organizer of the workshop due to take place in Berlin, May 30th, 2013, which is to be considered as a substantial step forward in enhancing the transatlantic cooperation of NGOs dedicated to the cause of mass atrocities prevention, and through it will contribute to strengthening the cooperation of relevant NGOs worldwide. We hope indeed that the workshop will contribute to the interaction between NGOs and governments, promote methodology on the assessment of early warning signs, and preparation of policy recommendations for early action in the prevention of genocide and mass atrocities, and provide a chance to prepare recommendations on situations at risk to be discussed during the workshop. The Budapest Center argues for applying the proper mass atrocities prevention lens when analyzing situations at risk, and believes only through such an approach is it possible to adequately analyze the situation and design the necessary options for preventative actions. We believe that the criteria and the rules for introducing an agreed specific mechanism must be set to launch timely and tailored actions in cases of the 4 mass atrocity crimes where the possibility of political bargaining is practically reduced to a minimum. That approach has adequately been reflected in the report prepared by an international group of experts initiated and set up by the Budapest Center, which has assessed the strengths and weaknesses of the European Union to prevent mass atrocities. The document is brand new. It has been released in early March 2013 and can be found on the website of the Budapest Center. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, on behalf of the entire Institute for Cultural Diplomacy and our partners, I commit to you today that we will continue our effort, unwavering and unceasingly, until we achieve the ultimate desired reality. Let us begin. Thank you.